start. We're gonna start. Let's warm up. It's not working yet.
Oh.
Not working. No, the shoot.
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Слава нації!
Смерть ворогам!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Героям України тричі!
Слава! Слава! Слава!
Good afternoon, my friends, and welcome to our Ukrainian rally, where we tell the world what's going on in Ukraine right now and how we're going to stop this war by stopping the Russian terrorist regime. However, before we go any further, we are going to start this rally the same way as we always do, with a lovely Ukrainian anthem. Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Слава нації!
Смерть ворогам!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Героям України тричі!
Слава! Слава! Слава!
You know, I have to admit, my friends, I'm very happy that today we don't have to sing ourselves loudly because it's not my comfort zone, let me tell you that. It is not my comfort zone at all. I'd like to remind every person who's passing by us that this rally is welcoming to any person who wants to join us and to add their voice to ours. So if you are interested to know what's going on in Ukraine, if you're interested why this war started, if you're interested who started it, and how this war will be over, how it will be ended, how it will be stopped, then join us, and we are fine to inform you about all of these things. Because this is unbelievably important for everybody to know that the country that has given us the most to achieve world peace is now fighting for its survival. Ukraine, after giving up the third biggest nuclear arsenal in the world, in the biggest nuclear demilitarization in human history, done in the Budapest Memorandum. Ukraine, after giving up not only that, but also the vast majority of their bombers, of their military gear, after the Soviet Union collapsed, after demilitarizing to a large extent, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, then Russia had the nerve to say that supposedly, oh, Ukraine was threatening Russia, just like what they said about Georgia. Because of course, small little Georgia was preparing to attack big Russia. I mean, it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? If you have the IQ of a doorknob, that is. Now, if you think about this reasonably, we understand, my friends. We understand that the Russian terrorist regime has done this many times in the past, and it continues to do so in the present, and it will continue to do so in the future, until they are stopped. Stop Russia, stop the war!
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 Stop stop the war.
Stop Russia, stop the war.
Help Ukraine protect peace.
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 Arm Ukraine as you promised.
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 You know, I'm happy to inform you all that the individuals who have organized the idiotic event of no to NATO, no to war, have actually reacted to our presence.
What, they didn't just
That's
yawn?
right, they posted on their own website that supposedly there was a group of Ukrainians there to harass and threaten them. I mean, I guess they see basic questions as harassment and threats. Because obviously these are individuals who do not understand the basic concept of freedom of speech. Now we, in contrast to them, we accept questions, even if they are questions that are tougher, even if they are questions that imply that the person who's asking them does not agree with us. We accept that because that is freedom of speech. That is a very important part of Western values, of British values in particular. Just like the rule of law, just like the freedom of religion, just like the freedom of expression. These ideals are the future of humanity. These are things many people have fought and died for in the past. And now, we got brain-dead tankies throwing these ideas under the bus because they do not understand them. You know, the mentality of a tanky is truly fascinating. They yearn for military intervention from communist states. They yearn for that authoritarianism of the Soviet Union. And they only changed their mind when they got a Soviet boot pressing on their neck. That is the moment when every tanky realizes that they have royally messed up and that this supposedly evil and imperialistic West was not so bad in the first place. Because, my friends, no entity in this world is perfect. Nobody's flawless. The West is not flawless. The UK is not flawless. However, we need to always strive for the greater good, for the best of the best. Not for perfection, but as good as we can make it. That is the spirit of humanity. That is what these far-left communists do not understand. Because just like the far right, in any country, they want to be oppressed, they want to be used. Or at least they romanticize the idea.
Until they are.
But when they lose, exactly, until they are. Because when they lose the freedoms they do not cherish, then they start missing them. It's like a saying we have in Ukraine. Коли маєм, не цінуєм, коли втратим, то сумуєм. When we have it, we don't cherish. When we lose it, we regret. That is what the saying says. That is what many people in this country should realize. That sometimes they support countries that don't offer the same freedoms that this country does. Sometimes they support countries with open homophobia. Homosexuals are thrown from buildings. Sometimes they support countries, exactly, thank you, Tommy. Sometimes they support countries that oppress them. You know, in fact, I have a very interesting story to you from a friend of mine who's actually Russian, and he's been in this town in Russia, faraway town on the east of the country. And he told me it was very interesting that in this town that was big enough to be a small city, there were no hospitals, but there was a military barracks and there was a police force. Now that's the humoristic part of a terrorist state such as Russia. They do not have hospitals. They do not care for the well-being of their people. They do not even have paved roads. Paved roads that trucks and cars could go by easily. No, they have dirt roads. But do they speak about that? No. They speak about imaginary Nazis in Ukraine. They speak about imaginary Nazis all over the world. They don't understand what they're speaking of. And in fact, my friends, I think it's very telling when our opposition always goes one of two routes. Either they give us dead silence and they do not answer a single question we have to ask them, or they give us this noise, this background noise of shouting something and running away, of insulting and not explaining, of making a silly point, usually pure Russian propaganda, and not even being able to justify why you think so. Now that, my friends, that is pathetic. Those are the people who don't understand the value of freedom of speech. Those are the people who don't understand the benefits of living in this great country of Great Britain. They don't understand it. And just as the saying goes, if they continue doing as such, if they continue their ignorant ways, they risk everybody's rights for the same benefits that we have here in this country. The ability to speak unafraid of direct consequences to your existence. That is not something that exists in a lot of countries. I mean, can we really see somebody being able to do this in Russia, or Ayatollah Iran, or North Korea, or China for that matter? Of course not. And yet, some people have the face to shill for these countries, day and night, and yet not answer a simple question. If that's such an amazing country, why are people not moving to it? Why are people trying to flee it? They can't answer it. Because they don't really have a point to give, my friends. The only things they want to do is to misinform people and to confuse people. I'll give another little example that happened in Speaker's Corner 2 weeks ago with an individual that calls himself Dust. Now this is not an alias I invented, and it's very funny to me that somebody chooses to be called Dust. It's not the most charitable alias, let's just say that. And our friend Dust, I mean friend quote unquote, he said that supposedly I used to stand for imperialism. And now I am supporting the evil Nazis. But the truth of the matter is, just minutes before that, I was arguing with Red Cap Boy, an actually self-proclaimed National Socialist. That's right. And this individual is particularly funny because when I called him a Nazi, he said that that was an insult. No, no, I'm not a Nazi, no. A National Socialist.
Genuinely doesn't know.
He chose to call himself a National Socialist, but he did not want to be called a Nazi because supposedly Nazi is something derogatory, but all of a sudden National Socialist is perfectly fine for him.
What, he doesn't know?
It's perfectly fine for him. No, hold on. The thing is, he said that the term Nazi was made up by Jews. That the Jews made up the term Nazi to supposedly downtrodden the poor, innocent, prosecuted National Socialists.
I'd expect that from
And
Ken
this is
Livingstone.
what the Russian support stands for. Red Cap Boy is virulently pro-Russian. He stands with the regime that has invaded Ukraine and that has been calling the Ukrainians Nazis ever since this war began all the way back in 2014. Real Nazis stand with those who claim that they are denazifying Ukraine. Now, that should say something. That should tell you something about the veracity of these claims. The veracity that was debunked many times over. Sometimes even by people who are pretty far, high up on the Russian command and control structure, like Evgeny Prigozhin, who died because he admitted that there were no Nazis in Ukraine. He said that the Wagner Group had been fighting the Ukrainians for years, and they were still looking for these imaginary Nazis. There were none. He couldn't find any. Well, he could, in his own barracks. And this is something else that an individual in Speaker's Corner asked me. What do you think about the Nazi problem in Ukraine? To which I answered, well, there is a big Nazi problem in Ukraine. There's 3 big battalions of Nazis sent to Ukraine. One of them, the Wagner Group, the second, Sparta Battalion, the third one, Rusich Group. Every single one of them sent by Russia. Every single one of them sent to kill Ukrainian people, to exterminate the nation, the very idea of the nation. And this idea of the nation is a term that the Russian terrorist regime has been attacking so much. Ideя нации. That is the symbol of the Azov battalion. The idea of the nation. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, my friend. That is what the Russian terrorist regime has been attacking. That is why the Russian terrorist regime is planning to now make 2 new armies to continue its war of genocide in Ukraine. Sergei Shoigu, the leader of the Russian military, has said so himself. Merely a few days after Putin was elected. And a few days after that, the attack in Moscow happened. Very convenient timing, I'm sure you'll agree. Just like what they did before the Chechen wars. Just like what Litvinenko has called them out on. He said so himself. He wrote a book about this. It's called The FSB is Blowing Up Moscow. I would definitely encourage people to read it. Where he explained in detail how the FSB does inside jobs to whip up their own population into a frenzy, into idiocy, so that they do not have any reason left. So that the only thing in their head is hatred. And so that the only thing that they see is their love for death. Just like certain terror groups have been saying, we love death more than they love life. That is what many terrorist groups have been saying lately. Terrorist groups that are not being exposed as such properly. Terrorist groups that unfortunately, some people, even in this great country, shy away from condemning. Well, my friends, we never shy away from condemning terrorism. We condemn the terrorist attack in Moscow. The inside job that the FSB has done, we fully condemn it, although it was done against our enemy. We condemn ISIS, we condemn the Taliban, we condemn ISIS-K, we condemn Hamas, we condemn Hezbollah and the Houthis. All of these different, and Al-Qaeda, thank you, Tom. Can't forget about them. All of these terrorist groups need to be directly condemned. If people refuse to do so, they're showing their true colors. Such as Jeremy Corbyn, who has always refused to condemn terrorist groups. Such as George Galloway, who not only refuses to condemn groups, but openly shills for them.
And the IRA.
Of course, the IRA. And George Galloway in particular is in the parliament. He's an individual who has his own party, the Workers' Party, I think, right? The Workers' Party, thank you. I mean, he might as well just smack a hammer and sickle there and say the Communist Party of the United Kingdom. Might as well just do that. I mean, what's next? What is next? Are we going to get, what's the name? Where's Luke? Luke, what's the name of that bald guy who went to Russia who was declared a terrorist? Graham Phillips, thank you very much. I mean, what's next? Are they gonna let Graham Phillips do the Nazi Party of the UK? Maybe he'll put a little Z as his symbol. Graham Phillips, the traitor of this country. Like a few others. A while ago, we have read a little article from a newspaper about a certain bunch of individuals, one of them particularly spicy individual, who was beating up homeless, who was a great Class A drug addict and an alcoholic, with a past in crime, a criminal record, you could say. And this unsightly individual has decided to join the Russian army. And you might notice a theme going on here. Every single time a celebrity gets disgraced in the West, they just see the light and they move to amazing Russia. When they are blamed of pedophilia, when they're blamed of rape, when they're blamed of all of these things that they cannot wash themselves from any longer, they move to Russia. And the Russians accept them with open arms. Because they're so traditional. Of course. Pathetic. Viktor Orban, Donald don't be surprised if Viktor Orban goes to Russia one of these days. His party, the Fidesz party in Hungary, has been getting a lot of fire lately because of a big pedophilia scandal that they were caught in. And this is one of the most unforgivable crimes, my friends. One of the crimes that cannot be overlooked. And yet Viktor Orban refused to resign. He doesn't want to resign, although the protests are still ongoing to an extent. Their president has resigned, but Orban, no. And it's always very funny that when these supposedly traditional leaders get into power, that all of their closest friends all of a sudden become unbelievably rich. All of their businesses start going very, very well. Almost as if their opposition is forcefully destroyed. Truly funny. Funny that the Hungarian Fidesz party was blaming Ukraine of corruption. No, no, those Ukrainians, we can't let them in. They have a corrupt government. While they are having one of the biggest pedophilia scandals in the history of any country in the world. That is funny. That is truly, truly hilarious, to be personal. A country that's caught red-handed in a big pedophilia scandal, blaming another country of corruption. You can't make it up. But my friends, although we need to know these Russophiles and these shills and these apologists very well, we need to also, every single time, say what Ukraine truly needs to win this war. Because arms keep peace. When you are under attack, dropping down your weapons is suicide, not a move for peace.